Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 154.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I am your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here because today's subject is definitely something that I know, bar none, every one of you can improve and most importantly, absolutely need. You're like, what on earth are we talking about? See, that's what you get for not reading the show description before you started playing. It's all good. Here's the thing. We want to build a business, and that's great. Everybody wants to do that. You want to serve more people. That's perfect. That's exactly what you should be doing. But here's the challenge. Where are the people? And more importantly, how do you find them? And in today's world, one of the biggest challenges can absolutely be making sure that you're in front of enough people. Because, hey, if you're too busy serving them, how are you going to go find more? That can become a time challenge and definitely a big frustration. Today's guest is going to help you with overcoming all of that. And here's the key. It's going to do it in such a way that you don't have to chase people. They're going to chase you. I think you're going to enjoy it because we are talking with an expert at inbound marketing. That's right, inbound marketing. You're like, what? I know. I'm excited about that too. And hopefully you are ready to listen to Mr. Tom Schwab. Tom, you there?
I am, Jay.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Good.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, you know, you have an interesting topic. You're going to help us increase our cash flow, I'm sure. But before we get to that, I think everybody knows the first question I'm about to ask you. So I look at today's entrepreneurs, and of course, you being one of them, as like yesterday's superheroes, you know, whether that be Wonder Woman, Daredevil, Superman, Spider-Man, it doesn't really matter. And they, you know, we get dressed up. They got dressed up. They dress up in tights and save people from their own messes and solve problems, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's what today's entrepreneurs do. And you do the same thing. However, before they put on the tights and the masks and the capes, they were normal people. Maybe they got struck by lightning, dumped in a vat of acid, or, you know, bit by a spider. But what happened is that they took that disadvantage, turned it into an advantage, and became something more. What we want to know is before you were the Tom Schwab we now know, who was Tom Schwab?
I love this question, Jay, and I have to laugh at it because the Tom Schwab that started out ran nuclear power plants for the Navy. I was about as
really?
I did.
Wow. Okay.
I went to the Naval Academy and went from there to running nuclear power plants on board an aircraft carrier. Wow. And, you know, they're not really they don't look for entrepreneurial people to do that. You're supposed to follow systems and do what you're told.
Yeah.
And it was like a round peg in a square hole, but it was what was expected and what was safe and to go through that. So when peace broke out in 92 and the Russians went away, I went from there to the corporate world and started with a Fortune 500 company, worked my way up, and it wasn't until about 12 years ago that I just looked at it and said, if I'm ever going to be a superhero, I got to get out of this place. If not, it's killing me. And I just looked at that and said that all that time I wasn't happy in that structure. I had stopped learning new things, and it was killing me slowly. And it wasn't until I got out on my own that, man, I really started to flourish, started to learn new things. And, I'm more excited about the future and life now than I was 15 years ago. It's just a great time. So I don't know if I was struck by lightning or finally was smart enough to figure out that I could leave the jail that I had put myself in.
Well, I think what's interesting, well, one, it's just cool that you were like, nuclear power plants. I don't think many people could ever say that one. But outside of that, what I think that was, something that I think a lot of people are dealing with right now is they're doing what's expected and what's safe, and they're doing what's following the rules, even though, because you said the words, killing me slowly. What on earth gave you the courage to go, you know what? It may not be what's expected of me. It may not be safe. And you know what? These rules can use improvement. Where on earth did that courage come from to change?
Well, I don't know if it was courage or clarity, but I looked at it. There was some things going on in my life. One, my father had passed away, and he passed away at the age of 62. And all of a sudden, it put a timeline on my life where I looked at it and said, what if I only have that many years? I saw friends around me that were having health problems from the stress that all the corporate travel was doing, and it was killing them slowly. And I looked at that and said, this is not the life I want. We've all got a limited number of days. Every day is a gift and not a given. And I want to create something with this. I want to go out there and do it myself. And I looked at it and said that this theory that so many people have is that I'm in a safe role. I feel safer when I control my destiny. I'd rather know the fears and face them than just be a cog in the wheel and not know what's coming. So from that standpoint, the control and just looking and saying, what do I want my life to look like? That's really what gave me the impetus to move forward with it.
Gotcha. Now, I would submit for everyone's acceptance that nearly every entrepreneur has some element of control freak in them. I mean, I'm just saying, at some point we're just like, no, I'm not comfortable with you making these decisions in these areas, and I think I can do a better job. And we learn quickly that maybe we can't yet, but we have to, we go through it. But what I like, you were able to say that this is not the life I wanted. So did you then sit down and actually take a moment and try to define what it is you did want?
I did, and looked at where I wanted to be in the future, what I wanted to be doing every day, and once you become an entrepreneur, every day doesn't become easy or beautiful or what you dreamed of.
Say that again. You got to repeat that, just in case they were washing the dishes or the kids screamed or something. They need to hear that one more time.
It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yes, there you go.
The freedom that and the autonomy that you dreamed of, you will get, and at times you will look back and say, "Why did I do this?" But they say stress is caused by being held accountable for things that you have no control over. Whereas, at least with an entrepreneur, I have control over more things, and I know the problems. I know how to. I try to fix them, and I like that control. I think you're right. And if entrepreneurs won't agree that they've got a little bit of control freak in them, I'm sure our spouses would admit that.
They would admit it for us gladly.
Yes.
Of course, we could have a round table. They probably should have their own support group. That's definitely true. Now, so talk to us a little bit, because here's what's going through my head. You're in this structure. If you're in the military of any kind, you're in what is, we'll call it, I would think of it as something very rigid. And then you're transitioning to corporate America, which isn't, it's maybe a little less rigid, but still you've got lots of things being decided for you, etc. And then you switch over to this complete freedom. I know when I look at my kids, again, not like you're a kid, but when I look at my kids, if I give them complete freedom in any area, the house is torn up and everything is just a mess. How did you learn to manage yourself and the daily activities that were required to build a business?
That's a very interesting question because freedom, um, too many choices is just as bad. And some people get overwhelmed by that. The way I look at it is just trying to figure out the strategy of where do I want to go? What am I doing to move myself towards that? And is it an opportunity or is it a distraction? Is it a trick or a tactic, or is this really the strategy I want to go with? Because going back to the military, tactics win battles, but it's the strategy that wins the war. So with every decision, with every opportunity, I'd always try going back to say, what's my strategy here? What's my strategy to grow my business, to attract and engage and delight my customers? What's the strategy of what I want to build? And then look at every decision along the way and saying, does this help it? Does it hurt it? Is it an opportunity or is it just a distraction?
Got it, got it. What I like about what you just said, though, is tactics wins battles and strategies wins the war. For those of us, myself included, who might not have as clear a definition of the difference between a tactic and a strategy, what would you call them? How would I identify them in my own business? Yeah.
To me, a tactic is the newest trick. Right. So when you see that somebody comes out with, hey, this Facebook trick works to drive traffic. It may, but it's going to work for a short time because sooner or later, everybody's going to figure out that trick or that tactic and it's not going to work. The better way is to look at the strategy and say, from your business, okay, how do I want to engage with my customers? Who's my ideal customer? How do I nurture the customers that I already have to keep them with a higher lifetime value, or to keep those customers as opposed to having to go out and find all new ones? And looking at it from that standpoint, the 30,000-foot view, as opposed to should I use this tool or that tool? Because if you figure out where you want to go from the 30,000-foot view, then some of the tactics or tools that you can use make a whole lot more sense.
Got it. And listening to you, I find this to be very true. Or at least this is I have a very, very strong belief that even if, before you were a superhero and an entrepreneur, etc., you were a single mom or, a janitor or anything, whatever you did before plays a positive role in what, style of entrepreneur you are today. And I'm just curious as how you feel your prior experience in the military gives you an advantage or a disadvantage or what have you as you have moved forward throughout your entrepreneurial career.
I think some of it is the structure and thinking through things, the process that if you set up the process right, that you can make the machine work for you. And have that cash flow come through it, and really that's the whole idea of a business. A business should be set up so that it can support itself, it grows itself. That you have systems that support that. It's not just one off and flying by the seat of your pants all the time.
Oh, come on! I like flying by the seat of my pants. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Well, and we all do that, but at a certain point, we're doing things that are flying by the seat of our pants, but we've got to have the systems that we put into place to support that growth and build that growth, because it comes to a certain point where if somebody asks you, would you like your business to double tomorrow? Well, if that means doubling the amount of problems just to double the amount of income, there's a lot of business owners at that point go, it's not worth it. And those are the businesses that you see that just sort of reach a point and don't go from there, and they're limited by their systems. And so I think from my engineering background, my military background, thinking through things, I'm always thinking of how can I systematize this? How can I use this tool to leverage it more? So how can I use social media to amplify and leverage myself, not to ever replace it, but how can I use those tools so that I can take it to the next level and the next level? Because as you and I know, we've only got so many hours in a day, and we can't start taking them from sleep long term. That's not going to work. You don't want to start taking it from health or your family. That's not going to work. So you need to really figure out systems and ways that you can use that to multiply your time. And we live in a wonderful world where our grandparents would have never dreamed of the things that we can do. And it's exciting to be able to use those as part of your strategy to attract more customers, convert them, and then really delight them.
Indeed, indeed. Now, so that everybody knows, the thing that's interesting to me is that, okay, everybody knows by now, or at least if you've listened for a while, you've heard me mention more than once that I'm naturally an introverted and shy person. So what does that mean? That means from a business standpoint, if you stay that way, you starve. So you have to find a way to, and this is what I did. So in person, I didn't use online or those types of things. I mastered many, many different strategies to attract people to me when I was in person so that I would always have referrals coming in, et cetera, because I hated the energy, just the sheer energy of getting up to go force myself on people. That's what it feels like. And to talk to them about, even though I know that what I'm going to do is going to help them, I just don't want to do it. Now, so therefore, your whole idea of inbound, the inbound movement and inbound e-commerce is something that's completely intriguing to me. So I want everybody to know what it is that you do in your own words.
Yes. And I'd compliment you because I think introverts make the best salesmen and the best marketers online, because you're very, very sensitive to what people think and what they do. And when people ask me what is inbound marketing, the first thing I do is say, well, you know what outbound marketing is, right? Because that's what makes you cringe. That's the that's the spammy emails that always get sent to you, and that's the interruption television commercial or the radio commercial or even those billboards that are just our sight pollution after a while. It's all about talking about me, sell this, buy this, and it's
Whoa. Tom, those billboards, they pay good rent. Just keep that in mind. All right. But it depends on what side you're on that
all
one.
Right.
But I'm with you. Billboards, cell towers, that's good stuff. But
right.
I'm with you.
All right. But from that standpoint, that's sort of a extrovert's sales or marketing where they're interrupting you. And I think that turns a lot of people off. And if you look at it, the rules of the game are changing. People don't want to be sold anymore. They want to be helped to buy or help to solve their problem. And this concept first came up from two smart guys from MIT, Dharmesh Shah and Brian Halligan. And they wrote a book back in 2009 called Inbound Marketing. And that their premise on that was that the winners in the future are going to be those people that help people solve their problems. Those ones that go ahead and offer content and offer answers to help people, like this podcast. And what's that do? That builds trust, it builds authority, it builds thought leadership. And all of these things we can do in order to attract visitors to our site or to our business. And then with that, we can go ahead and engage them with different offers and different educational things and start the conversation with them. And really, if you look at that, all of that automated touch points with them, if you think about it, it's going to lower the friction to buy. So they're going to know you, like you, trust you, and that way they can, do that first transaction with you. And it's not the big sale, it's just really trying you out. And at that point, it's really about, from an introvert standpoint of, okay, how can I build this trust with this person? How can I, really take them from a customer to make them a repeat customer and then a delighted customer and ultimately an advocate that is just bringing more customers to me. So that's the whole inbound strategy.
Yeah, exactly. This is why I was interested in talking to you. You just pretty much described exactly what you just described is another reason why I like rental real estate. I buy the building, I do the work once, I attract the tenants, and if I treat those tenants right, what happens is when they're ready to move or upgrade or whatever, their friend wants to stay there and they'll refer them, and it makes it easy, and it lowers marketing expense and cost and all these other things. But I've got to play devil's advocate with you just for a second, because there's this thing in me that feels like when I'm just sitting around waiting for something to happen, I want to go cause something to happen. So how does one reconcile their desire to cause something to happen but still create, this inbound effect that you're referring to?
Well, really, it's the action. Most entrepreneurs want to take action on something. I don't want to be passive and wait for things.
Right.
And inbound is not a passive thing. It's actively going out there looking for people to help. So if you see somebody on a forum that asks a question, well, you go ahead and answer their question. But at the same time, you think, wow, that would be a great podcast episode. That'd be a great blog. That would be a great video that I could record in my car and put up there, because with 7 billion people in the world, if one person has a question, there's probably another 5 that are searching for the same thing tomorrow.
Right.
So you can go ahead and do that with them. And really, it's a tactic. I don't like that word, but it's a tactic where you're continually adding this stuff, and it's evergreen. So when you put out a podcast here, you're helping the people this week that listen to it, but there's going to be people next week and next month and next year that will find that. And so where if you buy I'm not going to use a billboard because that's a really, really bad example here. If you bought a radio announcement, they're going to hear it once, see it once, and then it's gone. It's a spend. It's not an investment.
Right.
Whereas if you put out a guide like the buyer's guide to rental property in Southern California or Orange County,
right,
there'd be people that would find that and they would download that, the questions to ask, the best schools, all the rest of that. And now you've just built trust with that. You've built authority, and they probably downloaded it and gave you their email. So you can start to go ahead and nurture them and not hard sell them, not an extroverted way, but really, how can I help these people? Because, Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough people reach their dreams, you'll reach your dreams. And I believe that, and I think the amazing part is that the tools of the internet allow us to do that much faster and help many more people.
I know it's been something that's been amazing to me. I mean, many people know that I call us recently new online, because, for the first 6 years or so of business, I had no website, no database, nothing. We just did real estate. And then we decided, hey, I bet you there's somebody online who might actually want to know this stuff. So I've just been learning how, there's a learning curve, but at the same time, it's just been amazing to attract individuals to us by producing, as you said, this podcast. And we're launching right now. In fact, by the time most of you hear this, it'll already be live on our YouTube channel, where we're beginning to produce 3 additional videos a week answering questions that we find that people are typing in search engines that are real estate related. Those most frequently asked questions, and we're just posting them to the YouTube channel. Kind of curious to see what's going to happen there. I don't really know, but it fits my personality well. It's like, cool, they're searching for it. That means they need an answer. I can go provide it and make that happen. Talk to me a little bit, though. How did you take Goodbye Crutches from, I'll say, 0 to hero using this particular strategy? First, let people know what Goodbye Crutches is, and then that way they understand that. But also, I'm curious to know how to grow a business using this strategy.
Right. Well, for us, Goodbye Crutches was a small sideline business. My first entrepreneurial adventure was a distributor for a medical device company, selling artificial knees, hips, shoulders, that sort of things. And with that, we had doctors asking us, hey, find a way for our patients to stay off their healing foot. So with that, we had a little side business, and a patient helped us actually name it Goodbye Crutches. Just as Michigan was starting to lead the country into the Great Recession, the manufacturers wanted to buy back the distributorships for the implants. So we went ahead and sold that back and said, hey, can we take this sideline business and expand it? And so with that, the power of the internet and e-commerce, we looked at that. And I got to say, for the first year, we were very successful growing sales, but not growing a business. We were using a lot of tactics. So from the standpoint of, pay-per-click. And if you talk about, I want immediate results on something, boy, there's no better drug than pay-per-click.
Okay.
You spend a little bit of money and you get the immediate traffic. And if you do it right, you get sales out of it too. But I looked at that, and that's not cash flow. That's a cash infusion. And from that standpoint, is every day, it's like a drug. Every day you take a little bit and you get a rush out of it. You get the sales out of it. But to grow your business, now you've got to take a little bit more each day. And pay-per-click is getting more and more expensive and for a couple of reasons. One, more and more people are getting in and using it. But then the other thing is that fewer and fewer customers will actually click on those ads. So with that, I looked at it and said, I'm not building a business here. I'm just chasing a transaction. And that's not what I wanted to do. So like I mentioned, that book, Inbound Marketing, we read that. And at that time, it was really just a B2B model, that business to business. Nobody was trying it for e-commerce. So we started to hack it together. And really, if anybody had a question, we would go ahead and make a blog out of it and answer it. And I was amazed how much traffic that got and how many links it got back to our site and how many people would start to email us and engage us on that. So with that, we were able to use that and really build a system around that and start to use some better tools on it so that we had a marketing machine there. So that we were.
So hold on. If I'm hearing you correctly, basically, you don't want us to be a drug addict, i.e., PPC. I get that. I get that. I'm learning about PPC. We started about 100 days ago. I get some of what you're saying there, but this sounds more, at least in the vernacular or little terms that I understand, it sounds more like an organic strategy where you're search engine marketing or something of that nature. Am I close? Or, help me understand. What am I missing?
Are you tired of letting good cash flow generating ideas go to waste? Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready to apply for a complimentary, yes, that means free, one-on-one breakthrough session. Take action now. Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready. Again, that's cashflowdiary.com/ready. Before we get back to today's episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, your host, Jay Massey, has some important insights to share with you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm glad that you guys are having some fun on this particular episode because we're taking many different ways of coming at this cash flow game, right? I'm sure you know that. Here's the thing. You've got to have unique and different ways to market yourself and find the profitable pieces of your business and be open to the fact that there could be pieces to your business that you hadn't originally intended on becoming the thing to become the thing. Hopefully you've seen that or heard that specifically, that's the word, in this particular episode as well. And just learning new techniques. You've got to be able to master new things. And I know it can seem overwhelming. Trust me, it's been that way. It feels that way at times for myself, but take it one bite at a time, one episode at a time. And remember, we're still doing we need the reviews, the written reviews on the show, and you can be entered to win as well one of the cash flow games because we're trying to get to 100 reviews by July 4th. Just another reminder, I'm not going to stop. Just go over there, do the review. That way, if we get to 100, then you can make it. And then maybe we can make these announcement stops. I know you want to hear that. Anyway, let me get you back to Tom.
Exactly. And that's where the traffic is going to come from. It's going to come from organic traffic. And organic traffic means that when you put a question into Google, and the questions now are getting longer and longer, the first 2 or 3 positions that pop up there are always ads. And those are the pay-per-click. Everything down the right-hand column is pay-per-click. But then the next 10 spots on that page are all what's called organic. And basically Google goes out there and searches the internet and said, what are the best answers to this question. And if you start writing specific questions or specific answers to specific questions, you'll get found up there. Because when somebody asks a specific question about the best rental properties in Orange County, well, that's their question. So if you can answer that, they'll find you first, and it won't be the person that that is advertising, 2-bedroom rental property. No, because that's not the specific question. So they're really going after, it's called a long tail keyword. And so you start matching those. And more people are now asking questions on the internet. Google put out a study, and the length of a search term is increasing drastically. Whereas, people used to put in the word apartment. No, now they want to be very specific. So, what's the best apartment in the west side of Kalamazoo, Michigan? And if you have an article that answers that, and yours is going to be the first one up there. And really, when you start going after pay-per-click or the shorter keywords there, everybody's going after those. And because of that, you've got to make it so generic too. But if you can get very, very focused on one article or one piece of content, boy, you'll be found on that. And really, people want a specific answer to their specific question. They don't want to have to read, generalities. And so with that, you start to get this organic traffic. And that organic traffic is typically better from the standpoint of the people know exactly what they're getting and what they're looking for. They will tend to stay longer on a blog and actually reading the content than they will, say, a product detail page or a landing page. So really, the longer they're there, the more time you've got to engage with them. And content is a great way to attract. But I always say, to me, content is like chum in the water. If you go out shark fishing, you throw enough blood and guts over the side, all the sharks coming.
Yeah.
And shame on us is if we attract people with content and then we can't give them something more. So at the end of every piece of content, if it's a video or a blog, to put some kind of call to action there. And it's not buy now, anything like that. But hey, here's a free guide that sort of goes along with this that has more information. It could be a checklist while you're looking for something. It could be an online calculator, anything like that to really start to engage them. And really looking at it is not a transaction, but how can we start a relationship here?
Got it. All right. And I like that because, I like this for a couple of reasons. One, these are things that we are just now starting to do. I literally just recorded about 44 videos that were specific answers to specific questions that were typed in, because videos are easier for us. So that's exactly what we did. We answered those questions, and those are the videos that we're going to be, that some of you, if you're looking right now, you probably have either already seen them or whatnot. And so that's okay, cool. The thing about that though is it seems that it's going to be more time intensive than monetarily intensive. Well,
I think you have to invest somehow, right? The idea of free traffic, the idea of free traffic is a misnomer. You're either going to have to pay for it for pay-per-click, right, or you're going to have to pay for it in blood, sweat, and tears in producing it. The difference is that the radio ad plays once and then it's gone. It's easy to throw the money at it, but whereas content is really building a business, because that's evergreen stuff is going to be there. And one of the great things that content can be used in different ways. So that same video that you just recorded there, well, heck, you could take that and transcribe that the audio on that and make a blog post out of it. You could go to a site like rev.com and they'll transcribe that for $1. Rev? Yeah, REV.com.
Okay.
And they will transcribe the audio from that for $1 a minute. I'm not IR engineers, as I always say. I'm not a natural writer. I do much better speaking. So when I do my blogs, I do my blogs on an iPhone from the standpoint I'll have an idea and to make that content, I'll just go ahead and record a 5-minute discussion or a rant on a topic, and then I'll have that transcribed for $5. And that gives me a first draft on it. And that's probably 90% of the way there to making a blog. But in the same way, you want to make sure that you're giving people content in the way they like it. So people always say, well, should I be on Pinterest? Well, if your audience, if your ideal buyer persona is on Pinterest, yeah, you should be there.
Right.
If you've got people that like videos, give them videos. If you
Right.
got people that like audio, give them podcasts. If you got
Yep.
people that really want the blogs, go ahead and transcribe that, make it into a blog. And some of the most amazing things on organic traffic, Jay,
Yeah.
is when you start to go and I put in a question, and number 1 and number 2 of those pay-per-click ads, but number 1 through 4 then are the same piece of content that you put out. And the first one is a video. The second one is the podcast. The third one's the blog. And the fourth one's a slide share. And it's all the same raw content. You just put it in different ways. And different people want to see it in different ways. And, shame on us as entrepreneurs and business owners if we don't make it easy for our customers to connect with us.
Well, what's interesting about what you're saying, well, first of all, it resonates with me totally. Love every bit of it. Because that's part of the reason Cashflow Diary started, as everyone knows, is to document the stuff that was in my head so that my kids could have something to follow, et cetera, et cetera. And the by answering these questions, that's the very thing that, our customer, I mean, it's clear. You don't have to guess. It's like, hey, this is what they want to know. Well, I can answer that. I mean, we spend so much time trying to create a product or a service going, what do they want? Well, they just told us. Let's just answer that question and kind of move from there. So, but I guess my question becomes is, if you're going to do all this, what is your favorite way to, say someone has an existing customer base and they haven't done this? What's the favorite way to figure out what, in your opinion, what's going to help them be able to turn those transactions into relationships?
Mm-hmm. I would say a couple things. One is that everything online, the customers tell us what they like. So look at the analytics, not for vanity metrics, but to see what the experts are telling you. And the experts in a business is not the business owner. It's not the consultant. The only expert in a business is the person that votes with dollars.
Right.
So your friends will tell you what they think, but it doesn't matter unless they're buying the product. So to look at that and the feedback they're giving you in those. The other thing is when people start talking about, well, what content can I use? Well, if you've got customers, you've got content generators right there. And user-generated content is the holy grail of inbound marketing. So those thank you emails or the feedback that you get from people, you can go ahead and take those and turn them very easily into a story, and a story that tells and sells other customers on why they would want to work with you. That picture of a happy customer that they send you, well, that's a gift. And the worst thing you could ever do with a gift is to ignore it, right?
Yeah,
So
when you put it that way. Keep
Yeah,
going.
think about it. If I send you a Christmas gift, I'm okay with if you say, "Oh, thank you, I loved it," or "Thank you, I got it," but I don't take a woman's small in that sweater. Okay, I understand that, but if I just sent you a gift and you just totally ignored it, that would be insulting, and guaranteed I would never send you another gift. And you think about when people share feedback with us as companies, that's a gift. They don't have to do that. That's a gift to us. So from that standpoint, well, let's go ahead and acknowledge that and use it. So if somebody goes ahead and gives you a nice feedback, or even if it's one that's not the most pleasant, to put it up there to be real and acknowledge it. If somebody sends you a picture of themselves using your product or moving into the property, anything like that, we'll take that and go ahead and use that content. It could be on social media. It could be in your blog or your newsletter. Of course, you got to get the permission on using it in some ways. But the other thing about that too is they'll go ahead and amplify your message. There's the old joke from a small town that the way he sold newspapers every week was that he put everybody's name in it. Well, if you put everybody's name in newspaper, they'll buy it, and their mom will buy 2 copies. So
Exactly.
in the same way with user-generated content, when you go ahead and put, my picture or my story in, I'm going to amplify that. Even this podcast here, you're going to go ahead and share that with your community, but I will go ahead and share that with my community also.
Yeah,
so
and,
that
and we're gonna make sure to put your picture there too. So that's your name and picture. Okay, Tom, you good?
All right. But with that, everybody wins with that. So I would tell business owners, if you've got customers, you've already got great content.
Yeah, that's a new way of looking at it, and I definitely like it. That's for sure. So here comes the magic question then. When do I sell something? I mean, it's one thing to serve and answer and be that way. How does one translate or transmute this relationship? When does that happen?
Right. And ultimately, we're all in e-commerce, right? If you're online and you're selling, it's e-commerce. We're trying to make money off of this, and we make our money from serving people. So as you're with all of your content there, you're trying to solve their problem, not sell your product. But you want to make sure that you can help them solve their product with your product, if that makes sense. So what you always want to do is, move them along. So to help them define their problem, to help them give the options to their problem. And when they're in the decision phase, to offer your product as a solution. One of the best compliments that I ever got from a customer, and it's probably the weirdest one too, was when he told me that we were just like Preparation H. And
okay.
yeah. And I said, excuse me? He says, no, it's a compliment. He said, nobody really wants your product or service. And on this, he was talking about the equipment we had that you needed after foot or ankle surgery. Because he said, you've got to have a problem first. So nobody wants a problem. They just want the solution. So he said, from that standpoint, you gave me relief. You were fast. You were helpful. You were doctor recommended, and that sort of made me look at it and say that nobody really loves our product or service but ourselves. The customers, they just want their problem solved, and I think we've got to focus on solving their problem, not selling our product. And it's a fine line there. But if I can show you how you can solve your product or your problem with my product, then you want to buy. So I'm focused on helping you buy, not trying to sell you something.
Yeah, Tom, you kind of burst my bubble there. You're saying they don't love me? I mean, come on. I thought they loved me for me.
Well, they love how you can solve their problems. Right?
Got it. So it's all about them. That's what you're telling me. Okay. No problem. I can get over it. And that's a difficult lesson occasionally to run into and to figure out, because I know I can stay up late one night and go, yeah, this is the one. This is the thing. And I'm absolutely wrong, because the customer's always right on this one, because that's just the way it comes down to it. So here's a question then for you. With your services, etc., how would you help? Like if someone wanted to start today, maybe they're thinking, it's too late, I can't get in, or what have you. What would you do specifically if you were starting today to get started online or anything, if you were trying to build your cash flow that way?
For me, the first step in online business or any business, I think, is to define your ideal buyer persona. And by that, I mean, who is the person that you can delight, that you can help, that you're really going after? The world's got 7 billion people. Not all of them are your customer.
What?
So, no, because
come on. No.
there are some people that you will delight and do wonderful for. Sure. And there are other ones that you're never going to really mesh with. And video is great for that too, because some people are really drawn to you from that. Other people don't mesh, and that's fine. you don't need 7 billion customers. You
Hey,
need to
hey, 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 hey.
you you need to find the people that you can really identify with, and really, once you look at that and say, okay, who is this person? What are their demographics? And that's all the stuff that a census bureau can tell you. What's their average age? Where do they live? What job title do they have? That's part of it. But the other part is called psychographics, and that's really, the stuff that their best friend or their spouse would know. And I'm not talking creepy NSA stuff here, but really, okay, where did they get their information? What are their fears? What are their hopes? What are their aspirations? Um, who do they trust? Things like that. And if you have a good picture of who your customer is, boy, it's really easy at that point to come up with content and say, what kinds of questions would they have so I can answer them? Where would I find them on social media? What friction or what concerns could they have that I could address right up front with that? So with that, trying to focus on that person, because you'll be happier serving your ideal buyer, and they'll be happier with it too. And if it turns away some people, that's fine. If you're not set up to service those people, well, there's somebody else that is, and you can do them both a service by just focusing on those people that you really connect with. So for anybody that's starting either an online business or a brick and mortar business, try to figure out who your ideal customer is, that ideal buyer persona, and then focus everything on them. One of the examples I use is, you think of Sears or Montgomery Ward's if you're old enough. And those were stores that tried to appeal to everybody, and sort of they appealed to nobody. And then you flip it around and you've got stores like Abercrombie and Fitch. They do a wonderful job, focusing on a small niche and really connect with them. And I think that going forward, we're not all trying to be the Amazon or the eBay of the world. What we need to do is really start focusing on our tribe, our niche, those group of people. And the first step in any business or any content is figuring out who that person is.
Yeah, totally understood. And again, guys, this is absolutely true inside your real estate investing, because you are uniquely created to serve a particular type of customer with your real estate and real estate plays. Very uniquely positioned in that sense. And you need to know that, because some of you probably bought too high, or you bought too low, or you're just frustrated with the experience, and it's right there because you're not serving that person. So you bring up this concept. So I've got to put you on the spot on this one, so that, because some people may not understand. So I'm going to let you tell us, what is your customer's ideal persona?
Sure. Let me go to our e-commerce customer from Goodbye Crutches as an example.
Sure.
That was, that way I can use that example as opposed to our different clients' examples. We've got different ones. We've got, Mary the Motivated Mom, and that's the person that's 30 to 50 years old. She's off her foot. She's got a household and a family to take care of. She's got very different needs and connections and wants than, say, Jerry the on-the-go grandparent, which is somebody that's more the 50 to 70 range. They're worried about safety. They're worried about what their doctor recommends. They're worried about different things with that. So when you message them, there are different messages, different things that you want to really focus on. We found through our testing that if you take Andy the active athlete, and that's somebody that's 18 to 30 years old, and they probably hurt themselves doing something very fun, very stupid, and very dangerous. If you show that person a picture of that person to somebody that's Jerry the on-the-go grandparent, they will look at that and say, "Oh no, I could never use that. That's not something that would work for me." The flip side is if you show a picture of a grandparent to somebody that's 25 years old and just hurt themselves snowboarding, they're going to look at that and say, "I wouldn't use that." And I think in real estate it's the same way. If you're going after young families, you don't want to put pictures of corporate executives around a boardroom on it. I mean, and the flip side too is if you've got, high-end executive real estate,
Right.
Don't put the family with two kids and one car picture in there. It's just, it doesn't connect. So really you look at it from who am I connecting with? And even within your site, you can do different things and segment those. One of the really shames in the internet is we go ahead and we count the number of unique visitors that we have to our site or in our list, but then we treat them all the same way. And that's wrong. What we need to do is treat people like individuals. And so you can segment them and figure out where they are and give them good content with context that connects to them.
Nice, nice. But this brings up the magic question. How does one, especially if they've never done it, how does one figure out what customer persona they're after?
Sure. If it's not rocket science, and you already know that person in your mind. If you don't, your customer service people do, your sales people do. You could probably talk to some of your best customers right now and get a sense from them. There's a resource on our website that we've used for different people. If you go to inboundmovement.com/personas, that's personas plural. There's resources there, and it's different checklists and different questions to ask yourselves, both on the demographic side and the psychographic side, so that you can start to put those together. And one of the things that we even encourage our clients to do is go ahead and find a picture on Google Images that you think sort of looks like that person, and put that up, and then write a little narrative with them of who they are, what they need from us. We've got e-commerce customers that have done that and actually made posters of these people and put it up in their office. So when all of a sudden somebody calls up, or they're have a new potential customer, they can say, "Oh yeah, that's Mary the Motivated Mom," or that's first time Tom home buyer, things like that, so that they can figure out who they are really quickly and figure out what message they need to give them. And also, as you start going through, automated nurturing and things, you can make sure that you get the right message to the right person.
Nice. I love it completely. Now, I'm sure at this point, there's a number of people who are they just want to know more about what you're doing and the persons that you're serving. What's going to be the best way for them to catch up with you?
Sure. The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. Tom Schwab from Kalamazoo, Michigan. I've got two websites. One is inboundmovement.com. Like I mentioned, that's a new one we're launching. And then our consulting business is at inboundforecommerce.com.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, one last question. Let's pretend for a second that Mary, the motivated mom, is listening and she's going, you know what? I am ready to go out there and become that superhero. She could be standing in front of the superhero outfit store right now as she's listening to us. But yet she's still feeling a little bit of that doubt and that nagging fear and that nagging, can I do it? And is anyone really going to read my article online type of stuff? What would you say to her right now?
I would say to her that the best way to find out is to take action, and that you're not going to learn anything from your customers without putting out and taking action. I guarantee that first piece of content, the first blog, the first podcast, the first video will be the worst one you ever put out.
Oh yeah.
But they'll all get better. And with that, you can learn from other people. And Jay, we didn't talk about this before, but I got the idea as we were going through here. If anybody wants to learn more about inbound marketing, I've done a presentation before, and I'd be thrilled to do it for your audience. They just go to inboundmovement.com/CashFlowDiary. We'll do a webinar there, and we'll record it. If you can't make it, just sign up for it. And it's the webinar is called Inbound in an Hour. And there was a lot of stuff that I touched on here, but with that, with the webinar, we'll go through and give you the pieces in it and show you a roadmap and at least a way other people have done it, and hopefully give you some great ideas on how you can start going and using these tools of the internet to attract more visitors, engage more leads, and delight more customers.
Excellent. I love delighting customers because that usually means I get rewarded with certificates of appreciation, usually called dollar bills. So I definitely appreciate the time that you have taken to be with here today and invest inside the Cashflow Diary audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? You had so many resources in this particular episode. If anything, you're just like, I don't know what to do first. Well, do something first. Go register for the webinar. Go over to Inbound Movement. Figure it out. Inbound for e-commerce. It doesn't matter. Do something. You know, the best way to make sure that you are not in the same place a year from now is that you take something that you learned today, and in the next 24 hours, you take one measly measurable step in that direction. I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Until next time.